Now we've got a pretty good handle on what's going on. We still know there's some major things that have to be moved around, some problems that need to be solved. Um, and I've used a lot of the tools that I have in order to figure that out. What we haven't done yet is look at really some angles of alignment. How do different parts relate to each other? We talked about this a little bit earlier in this semester. The biggest one is there's a perfect envelope that Dan fits into. And that envelope may have 4 or 5 sides. It's whatever the simplest shape that he would exist in. This is one of the first things I want to check when I start looking at angles. What is this envelope? What are the angles of this envelope? Get those on there nice and strong so you can see them. How does that relate to what I see in my source or on the model themselves? If I can check this angle and this one and this one and this one and this one, and my drawing's accurate, I know he has to fit within that shape, but also he has to touch at those key points. And the way I do that is I extend this out and I just, again, parallel to the model, not tilted forward or tilted back. That'll really mess you up when you're doing the angles especially. But I'm just going to rotate my wrist until I'm lined up with where these lines want to hit anyway. So the angle from the elbow to the corner of his head. And I'm in pretty good shape here. This angle is what I'm seeing. Check the other side. You do want to be specific about this. And what I mean is this envelope can cut through some pieces, but I'm really looking for a very specific landmark. The corner of the bend of his head, whatever seems to be jutting out that lines in, hits that, which is kind of this first knuckle of the pinky out here. Some of it wants to cut through the meat of his arm, maybe even the meat of his shoulders. It does that. And that's fine. I do want to pay attention to those where it's happening as I try to see this line. All right. So my line is pretty good. But one of the things I noticed when I'm lining that up is that the shoulder does push out past that, and some of this bulk of the forearm wants to push out past that and then return. Taper, push out past that line, and return. And I'm okay with that too, and I'll explain why. Remember earlier we were saying that the shoulders didn't quite feel broad enough. Now this angle of relationship between these two is helping me see where I can push out on that in a meaningful way. All right, let's check another one down along the there to the heel. Good. So this angle is feeling accurate too. So moving that heel over has helped quite a bit. Now I am noticing, as far as my envelope goes, that this angle has to change directions. I still want to hit that bottom line. That line can extend forever, right? And so I can move this point where the big toe is anywhere along this line and still be within the height that I'm trying to describe. I can tell that this is where the challenge for me in this drawing is going to happen, and I'm going to keep chipping away at that through measuring as I go. But for now, I just want to keep looking at these angles, my envelope. So when I compare this to my source, that curve of his foot has to be hitting out here now, which is good. Again, I'm slowly sneaking up on the correction of this part of the leg. I didn't have to stop and redraw the whole foot. I'm using all of these angles of information, these measurements and everything I've been doing to take me there. And I'm not trying to locate the entire shape of the foot. I'm trying to see where does this shape end. That's the landmark I'm looking for. The rest I can fill in as I go. And get closer and closer to what I actually see. And then the last little piece of my envelope, pretty much a vertical between the big toe and the elbow. And so it's feeling like that big toe was pushed out just a little far. I'm going to pull it back in to line up with that elbow a little bit more. And so there's my envelope that Dan needs to fit into. And I'll reference back to those because I'm going to keep moving things and changing things. But I'll go back to those and recheck, make sure I was accurate over and over again.